What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we finish up our talks on the Great Old One Warlock, the one that looks to space, looks to the weird, looks beyond to get a little bit of power, and today we get to see how that works in application. But before we jump into it, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to share the video with your friends and click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. Another great way of supporting this channel is by becoming a member down below by clicking that join button just at the lowest tier by becoming a bronze snapper. For $2 a month, you get access to all of my build guides and subclass fixes, so make sure to check that out, of course. And of course, the higher tiers include some awesome great things as well. Things like early access to videos, early access to certain parts of my Discord server, talking with me about certain video topics, that kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff there to check out, so make sure to jump on that down below. So as far as today's build, this is a weird one, right? This type of warlock doesn't really lead you in any particular direction when it comes to a build, and so you have to get a little bit more creative in what you want to do when choosing this patron. For me, I wanted to take advantage of the telepathy feature that we get at level 1. And so I need to find some way to really enhance that in order to really take advantage of that. And I think I found an interesting way to do it. So we're going to take a look at that today. Before we get too far into things, here are the rules for this series, so make sure to check those out. Of course, if stats look differently at your table, then make adjustments accordingly. So to start off, we have our race, and I'm going with one I haven't gone with in a very long time, and some tables may not even use this race anymore, and if not, then make sure to check out the honorable mentions at the end. But we're gonna go with the half orc. I know the half orc is kind of a dying thing, or at least the half races are kind of a dying thing, but there is something that I really wanted out of this race that I didn't really see anywhere else, and so I wanted to go with this. Of course, we get dark vision. There are plenty of races that get that. We get relentless endurance, which we could have gotten from the new orc, but the reason I'm here is actually for the free proficiency and intimidation. I think it's nice to go ahead and be stocking up on all of my charisma checks here, because we are going to be using them a lot. When we have the ability to telepathically speak to some other creature, we might be using intimidation, we might be using persuasion, we might be using deception. It just depends on the situation. I want to make sure that I've got those big three at the top of my list, but I want to make sure that I'm okay doing other things as well, right? I don't necessarily want to put all my eggs in one basket. I want to be more well-rounded, and so you'll see what I mean by that. Of course, you're going to get access to other different ones that you can take proficiency in just by being a warlock or whatever it is you happen to choose, but I want to grab these through features. That way all of my other skills are open and I've got a ton of proficiencies. You'll see what I mean here in just a second. We, of course, now look at our stats, and I'm going to put my highest stat into charisma, second highest is going in constitution, and third in dexterity. Really no surprises there. Bottom three are really your choice. I typically go with wisdom as the fourth one, just because wisdom saving throws are a thing you will run into. And then strength and intelligence are really just dump stats. We get a +2 and a +1 to do two different stats here. My +2 is going to go in charisma, and my +1 is going to go into dexterity. We're going to leave the constitution as an odd number for now, but we will fix that a little bit later. For equipment, we're just going to take the basics. We're going to take some light armor. If you want a shield, go for it. There's not really anything in this build that works specifically for a shield. We're not using a weapon or anything in this, so there's not really a reason to do it or not to do it. It's really if you want the extra AC, if that's something you want to go for, go ahead. It's an option that you can take. So let's take some levels here. At level 1, we're going to start off as a warlock. So again, for me, that's a little weird. I normally will start in random places, but warlock is really the most sensical place to start on this, and so that is where we're going to go for the beginning. We're going to start off with Awakened Mind and Pack Magic. Of course, Awakened Mind gives us that telepathy right off the bat, which is fantastic. And then Pack Magic, of course, giving us our special ability to do magic. If you have not seen my talk on how Packed Magic works and how it's different from spellcasting, of course, I talked about that a lot in my general Warlock guide. Make sure to check that out up in the iCard above. For cantrips, of course, Eldritch Blast, can't leave home without that. And then Prestidigitation is, of course, a great one to have on hand for just your random stuff. It does a lot of different things. It's kind of a catch-all kind of thing, and we're going to get access to a few more a little bit later, but those are the main two. For right now, I'm going to take, for first level spells, I'm going to go ahead and grab Tasha's Hideous Laughter and Dissonant Whispers from my specific expanded spell list here, as well as Hex. That's another great one to have on hand. You really can't go wrong with any of those. And of course, there are some other options out there, but those are going to be my top 3. At level 2, we're going to be a Warlock 2, and we go ahead and get our Eldritch Invocations. Number 1, of course, Agonizing Blast for extra damage on our Eldritch Blast. No brainer with that. But we're also going to grab Beguiling Influence, and this is where we get our Deception and our Persuasion as well. So now we have the big 3. Of course, we don't have Performance, but I'm not as worried about performance. So we've got our big 3 in charisma, right? So what you got as a Warlock at level 1 in proficiencies, you of course could have chosen whatever you want, just don't choose those 3, and you get those 3 here through features, which is pretty cool. At Warlock 3, we're going to get our Pact Boon. Pact the Chain, of course, makes the most sense if you don't have a specific build for it. You can also go with something like Talisman. I've seen Talisman builds work with this. To me, I'm just going to go with Chain because it's a little bit more consistent, just your ability to have a familiar, and of course that familiar can be invisible if you choose Imp. You have some other options that can do some things. Sprite has some abilities that are cool, but overall, it's really good for the invisible help action, so definitely consider going that route. We also get second level spells here. Hold Person, Misty Step, and Suggestion make the most sense to me. Of course, there are some other great options out there, and pick those up if you so desire. At Warlock 4, we're going to get our first ASI or feat, and I'm going to grab the Actor feat. The Actor feat, of course, is going to give us enhanced abilities when it comes to passing ourselves off as someone else, and we're going to have the ability to kind of have this as an option as well as the telepathy. So we're going to have this kind of as a pocket strategy, but I think Actor overall is going to bolster our abilities to really get to places we probably shouldn't, and to schmooze people we probably shouldn't be able to. And of course, we have the proficiency in those big 3 social skills, which is great. For Warlock 5, we of course get no features, but we do get another Eldritch Invocation, and Mask of Many Faces works really well with the Actor feat, so I'm going to go ahead and snag that as well. For third level spells, we get things like Hypnotic Pattern, Counterspell, and Dispel Magic. Those are kind of the big 3 for me. There of course are some other options if you want, but those make the most sense in general. At Warlock 6, we get Entropic Ward, which is a nice little somewhat defensive feature. It's cool, I guess. We talked about this a lot more back earlier this week when we talked about what these features did, so I'll throw that up in the iCard above for you as well. So make sure to check that video out if you have any questions about what specifically any of these features do. I've gone into that already, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. And then, so now we're level 7, right? Level 7 gives us the chance to either go ahead and grab another invocation and 4th level spells. And there are some pretty good ones, right? That's Dominate Beast right around the corner, Dimension Door, even Charm Monster, right? There are some options here that we could go with. But instead, I want to take a little detour. I think getting Entropic Ward is really important, and I don't think that we should multi-class anything before that, but after that, I think we've got some room. We'll see just how it goes, but I want to go Bard here. I think Bard makes a lot of sense. Not only do we not have to worry about, charisma being our focus, but there's a lot of social type of things that we really want to focus on, and this just boosts that up really, really well. So we're going to get spellcasting, regular spellcasting, as well as Bardic Inspiration of a D6. If you don't know what Bards do or how they work, of course, my guide for Bards is up in the iCard above, so make sure to check that out as well. And so we get access to several spells here. We get Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, Vicious Mockery. Those are kind of my top 3 when it comes to this build. And then top 3 for first level spells, Charm Person, Fairy Fire, and Silvery Barbs. Those make a lot of sense as well to use with our Bard spell. to use with our Bard spell slots. Of course, you can switch back and forth, but to me, something that is a reaction like the Silvery Barbs, typically you're not going to want to use your Warlock spell slots for that. You probably would want to just stick with the ones that you got from Bard. At Bard 2, we get Jack of all trades, which is just a general boost overall, which is fantastic. Song of Rest, of course, gives us a d6 of bonus healing as long as people are healing on a short rest. And then Magical Inspiration, which just gives us some more options for our Bardic Inspiration, which is nice. Bard 3, we get to choose our subclass. And I'm going with one that may not be so obvious, just because there is a feature in there that is just not going to be used really at all, but the other feature is really great. And so we're going with the Whispers Bard. Again, if you don't know what the Whispers Bard does, it's up in the icon card above. I'll put all of that there for you. But yeah, we get Psychic Blades. Not using that. You know, it's if you hit with a weapon, you can deal extra damage. If you wanted to make this a melee warlock, of course there's an option for it, but to me, I don't think it's really worth it. So, The reason why I'm here, though, is Words of Terror. Now, Words of Terror is typically a feature that is not the best, just because of the time it takes for it to actually activate. But if you're communicating with someone telepathically, maybe you've got an option, right? I think that there's a way to kind of get around that big restriction that Words of Terror enacts by it being telepathic speech, right? You catch somebody in a stressful situation where they can't leave, they don't really want to talk to you, right? But they can't go anywhere, right? You talk to them for a minute, they're in a bad spot, and now they are frightened and in a really, really difficult position, right? I think that's great. So that combination there is really cool. So we could stop there if we wanted to, but I think we keep going. But I think there's a lot here that we can really squeeze out of it and make some good use of it. So for second level spells here at the same level, we also get things like Enhance Ability and Enthrall. I think those make a lot of sense as well. There are plenty of options here at second level, but really the main ones show up at third. So we get at Bard 4, another ASI or feat. Here's where I will take Resilient Constitution. This, of course, will bolster that odd-numbered Constitution, as well as giving me proficiency in those saves in order to maintain my concentration checks on things like Hex. At Bard 5, we get our Bardic Inspiration bumped up to a D6, and most importantly, we get Font of Inspiration. This, of course, is going to shift all of our recharge of Bardic Inspiration over to a short rest, which means that this is going to combo really well with us wanting to get our spell slots back. We're really, really, really going to want to take those short rests, right? Which is cool because we now get access to the spell Catnap. Catnap, of course, allows you to basically speed run a short rest, and that's fantastic, especially if we use a Warlock spell slot, which we're going to get back anyway after a short rest. So that's kind of the kicker there. We also get access to Slow, which is cool, but yeah, those are both really neat, and definitely take a look at that. So now I think we've gotten pretty much everything out of Bard that I want. You could go to Bard 6 if you wanted another feature. To me, the Bard 6 feature here is not really worth it, so I'm gonna skip out on it, and we're gonna go with Warlock the rest of the way. So for Warlock 7, we're going to not get any features, but we do get another Eldritch Invocation as well as 4th level spells. Investment of the Chainmaster makes sense here, just to buff up our little familiar. Maybe it can make some better attacks. Maybe it's just better at being a familiar, and I like that a lot. For 4th level spells, again, Dominate Beast, Dimension Door, Charm Monster, Ivard's Black Tentacles. All of those are fantastic. I definitely would take all of those if you can fit it. For Warlock 8, I'm going to get another ASI or feat, and I'll grab Warcaster. This is going to give me advantage on those concentration checks, which is great, but more importantly, it allows me to Eldritch Blast as someone is leaving my melee range or whatever it happens to be, which is great. I think that's nice. We don't have a weapon, so opportunity attacks really are not going to be really be our bag. At Warlock 9, we get yet another round of no feature, but we do get another Eldritch Invocation. I'm gonna grab Sculptor of Flesh here because, again, Polymorph is kind of in that realm of changing your appearance and you know, doing things that maybe you shouldn't be doing, or passing yourself off as someone maybe you aren't. I think there's a lot that works well with this, so definitely pick that up. And for 5th level spells, Dominate Person, Hold Monster, and Synaptic Static are pretty much your top 3 on that. Warlock 10, Thought Shield. does pretty much exactly what you think it does. Nothing too crazy there. Warlock 11, we get Mystic Arcanum, and I'm going to take Mass Suggestion, surprising probably no one, and that's totally fine. Warlock 12, we're going to go ahead and bump our Constitution up by 2, and that is going to be really good for our HP. You could also take the Tough Feat if you wanted to, but you also get another Eldritch Invocation here. I'd probably take Gift of the Everliving Ones here. There are a couple other options that might be okay, but that's my primary one, just so that I can be healed up a little bit more effectively. Warlock 13, we get another round of Mystic Arcanum. I'd probably grab Force Cage here, actually. That way, if we are trying to talk to somebody, if we're trying to investigate on something, we want to keep somebody around, I think that's an option for sure. Then Warlock 14, Create Thrall, which is fine. I think it's not too bad of a feature, but it is late to be getting something like this. We're level 19, so I'm not sure how much use you'll get out of this at level 19, but oh well. And then finally, Warlock 15, level 20, we get our final round of Mystic Arcanum. I would grab Dominate Monster at this point, and then we get yet another Eldritch Invocation, and I would grab either Master of Myriad Forms or Visions of Distant Realms. Either of those could be helpful. Of course, Master of Myriad Forms allows us to jump up to Alter Self, and then Visions of Distant Realms is Arcane Eye. Either of those can be very useful, so it really depends on your role in the party and what everybody else needs you to do. So that is our build for today. Hope you all enjoyed that. Let me know what you thought down below. We of course have some quick honorable mentions before we head out for the day. And so for other racial options, the half-elf and the satyr make a lot of sense to me, just because they do give us other skill proficiencies, of course. Half-elf, of course, would work best with something that is using weapons that are not strength-based, right? Just because then we could use something like the elven accuracy. Satyr, I think, works well because it is a fey creature here, and so not only do they tend to be a little more mischievous, but, you are going to be immune to all of those whatever person spells, dominate person, whatever, which is a really nice immunity that isn't talked about a whole lot, honestly. It's huge, so definitely consider those two options. For other possibilities of feats, I think this actually would be one to consider Skill Master. I don't normally recommend that, just because to me I think it's a waste of a feat slot, but I think it actually could work here to make this kind of a skill monkey, but also face of the party. I think there's some interesting options here to be thought of. Moderately armored, of course, so that you can wear some better armor, and then skill sniper, of course, to extend your range, to ignore cover, that kind of thing. Nothing too crazy on that. And finally, for other multi-classing options, there are a few. For sorcerer, I think Shadow and Aberrant Mind make a lot of sense. Aberrant Mind is a little redundant at the beginning, but it's better as you go, so you would need a somewhat deep dive into that. The Glamour Bard makes a lot of sense here, actually, as an alternative if you wanted to go Bard and go a different route. I think that makes a lot of sense. And if you really want to go the Paladin route, I think the Watchers makes a lot of sense here. I think you could really make all of that work. So that's the video for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Next time around, we are going on to the one, the only Hexblade. I wonder how that one's gonna go. We'll just have to see when we get there. So I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. We will see you all a little bit later. And until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.